So welcome to this video, and before I get into the subject that I want to share, I first of all want to say that this is my second attempt of recording the audio part of this video, and much like the previous video, I had some struggles with things going on in the household while I was trying to do the recording. So various different things happened, and in the end, despite the fact that I do have some audio editing software, there was just too many things. It would have taken me too long to get the sound at the level that I would want it to be to share on YouTube. And the reason that I'm saying this to you is it's important, I think, to recognise in life that things don't always go as planned. Things aren't always as perfect as we want them to be, and I anticipate that this recording will not be completely perfect in terms of sound either, but I am hoping to go with this one so I don't need to record the whole thing for a third time. So without further ado, let's get into the subject that I want to talk about. So I've been thinking about empowerment for a while now, and more recently the archetypes of the Maiden Mother Crone. So the Maiden Mother Crone is about the triple goddess, and in neo-pagan traditions it is also about the Maiden Mother Crone archetype, so three beings in one, or three aspects of one being, each representing a different stage of the female life cycle. There is also a link in as well with the moon as well, and the phases of the moon. Though of course it could be applied more generally to the process of aging and how within each stage we take the earlier stage of our lives with us. In other words, we have all aspects of those stages occupying space within us simultaneously. So when we're thinking about the Maiden Mother Crone, for some of us, we may be wise beyond our years, so we may in part occupy that space of the crone, even though we're very much in our maiden phase, or indeed even younger. For some people, it is as if they've lived many lifetimes, isn't it? And perhaps they have. So the reason that my thoughts about empowerment kind of found their way into thinking about the Maiden Mother Crone, initially I was influenced by a video from the musician Bat for Lashes. Her new album is called Dream of Delphi, and the title track is of course also called Dream of Delphi. And without giving too much away, in case you want to check her out and find out for yourself, so no spoilers, but essentially it's about, I think actually probably the whole album actually, but certainly this song in particular is about those three aspects, the maiden, the mother and the crone. And within the video, to me at least, it's as if she is kind of occupying all of those spaces simultaneously in the way that she portrays the video and the lyrics. Well, that's how it seems to me. That's what I took from it. And interestingly, much like myself, I do tend to think of Natasha Khan, who is Bat for Lashes, as being a white witch, and I don't know if she sees herself that way. Be interesting to find out, and maybe I will do that, but that's how she seems to me. So that video and that song is part of the inspiration behind this video that I'm sharing with you now. And I think for me, as I'm sure is the case for many people, the process of aging is difficult. So in my maiden phase, if you will, I guess it was filled with many adventures, and my identity at that time, although not completely secure, not completely rooted, but my identity at that time I think was largely, certainly in my late teens and early 20s and even into my 30s, was largely based around my physical appearance, if I can say the word. You can tell that the word is sitting awkwardly with me now as I'm now in my 49th year. And I think it does seem a little bit kind of sort of vacuous, a little bit kind of, not sure what the word is I'm looking for here, but it seems quite shallow. I think that's the word that I'm looking for. To say that out loud, it does sit awkwardly with me to say that is the main way really I express my identity. But I think probably that is the case for a lot of young people, and obviously that can be more challenging for some people than others. But for me, certainly, that was the way that I expressed my identity, was really through my appearance. But as I say, it was certainly not a secure and rooted identity. And as I've said in my previous videos, it is something that I've struggled with, that sense of identity. And obviously now, through doing my own research and through YouTube and other avenues, other sort of research and other books that I've read, I'm now aware that the reasons, or part of the reasons at least, for those struggles is to do with my birth chart and those aspects of my birth chart, and in particular the Chiron wound, which I mentioned in my previous video. And in fact, as a young child, moving into early teens, perhaps, I did suffer bullying in school. And that was a very difficult time for me. I didn't quite fit in. I was very shy, very awkward. I wasn't secure in myself at all. I was lucky to have a loving family around me. But I was very, very insecure, and I struggled to fit in that social space of being in school. But moving into my later teens and early 20s, I did start to become more of a beautiful butterfly. But that beautiful butterfly, as I say, was based around my appearance, really, rather than anything else. Though I think inside, I probably never really left my cocoon, so there was still insecurities there. Those things were still kind of within me at that time, but my outward appearance was quite confident. And I guess it's fair to say that we can never really be rooted in our identity by something as transient as the way we look. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, as I've said, my previous video was about my Chiron return. So that's my Chiron return in terms of astrology. And that Chiron wound is to do with my identity and my personal power. And as I record these words, as I say them right now, I know that my identity has to be pulled from the inner me, the real me, if you will. I can still do things like tattoos and colourful hair, and if you don't know me in real life, that's something that I have, and it's something that I've done for a long time. Once I kind of reached a point where I felt I wanted to be more me, or what I perceived as me on the outside, that's something that I started to do. And actually, interestingly, I didn't get my first tattoo until I was 40. It might have been just before my 40th birthday, I can't quite remember, but it was certainly around that time. I've had colourful hair, usually in blues and purples, for a bit longer than that, but roughly similar in terms of time. But whilst those things are important, it's, what is more important to me, and I guess for many people, is my values, my humour, my kindness, and my sensitivity. And I think we can be more empowered by knowing and connecting with our deeper self. And I think if we allow that deeper self to shine out, that is the thing really that kind of makes us beautiful in a less transient way, in a more authentic way, in a way that isn't located in the way that we physically look. And I also think that we can, or indeed in this case I can, embody the Maiden, the Mother and the Crone simultaneously, as I mentioned before when I was talking about the Bat for Lashes video, where she was moving between, or as I saw it, she was moving between those phases of the archetype within the song. And aging, of course, is a gift because it brings time and it brings wisdom. And perhaps most importantly, it brings time with the people that we care about here on Earth. But getting back to appearance and the way we look, or in this case the way I look, my appearance has certainly changed since my early 20s and late teens. Of course it has, I'm nearly 50. But give or take, I guess I look roughly like the same person. And when I started making notes of this video just a few days ago, a car drove past me, and the song that was playing was Not 19 Forever by the Cortinas. So I know the song, but I'm not a follower of the Cortinas' music, so you may be far more familiar with this track than I am, and you may be far more familiar with the Cortinas themselves. But I think whether you know the song or not, from the song's title, it's pretty clear what the sentiment is. We cannot remain in our youth. If we are lucky enough to be on Earth, living our lives through all the phases, through all the ages, 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond, we can take parts of our youth with us, but we will age, and that's okay. So I, like many other people, can be safe knowing that, yes, my appearance has of course changed from my late teens and early 20s, but I am still me. You know, that person deep inside me has obviously experienced changes, and we do hopefully evolve as human beings, but that deep sense of self, that core, if you will, remains. You know, I am still the person that I am. Though, of course, as mentioned in my previous video, my identity is something that I've always struggled with, and I think in part that relates to my Chiron wound, but also to other aspects of my birth chart. And that's only recently that I've discovered this. Before, I always sort of knew that it was an area of struggle, but I didn't really know why. But now I'm making more sense of it. But moving back to the sense of youthfulness and that kind of maiden aspect of the Maiden Mother Crone archetype, I think it's safe to say that the modern world does sometimes seem rather obsessed with youthfulness. Celebrities, I think of all genders really, do try, or often they try I should say, to cling to their youth. And I'm certainly not judging that, I absolutely get it. You know, it's seemingly part and parcel of the Western world, so to speak. But whilst that is the case, and of course not everybody allows themselves to be kind of pulled into that, but some people do, and as I say, I get it. And I've talked about the celebrity, of course, but obviously that kind of celebrity, the focus on the aesthetic, the focus on youthfulness does kind of bleed out really into the world beyond the world of celebrity, and certainly social media plays a part in that as well. So yeah, absolutely, not everybody kind of plays their part in that. You know, some people do intentionally step out of it, and some people are just naturally less affected by it than others. But it is a struggle, I think, that, you know, that clinging on to youthfulness, that kind of focus on our appearance. It's a struggle for a lot of people, but you know, that's a much kind of bigger discussion, really, I suppose, than the one that I'm sharing here. But you know, just despite that kind of focus on youthfulness, on that focus on, you know, holding on to our youth, you know, it isn't the right thing really, because we can't be Benjamin Button. And this is the second recording of me talking about Benjamin Button, and I'm finding it so hard to say. It's such a tongue twister. I'm going to try it again. Benjamin Button. try saying that, really, really quickly, especially if you're tired, and you might find you struggle too. But anyway, so Benjamin Button, and if you're not familiar, and I don't want to give too much away, but hopefully you understand what I mean, but it's that sense of actually getting younger, which essentially is really just a whole kind of spoiler alert, but I'm sure most people will have seen it, by now. It's quite an old film starring Brad Pitt, but it's getting younger, and obviously there's a great deal more to it than just the idea of hanging on to youth or trying to appear as young as possible. But just in terms of the point that I'm trying to make, we can't do that. It isn't possible. We can't get younger, and we cannot hang on to our youth, but we can take with us that sense of the inner child. We can take with us that sense of the maiden. We can take with us that sense of being a mother, being a carer. And, we can also take with us that sense of wisdom, of aging, of knowledge that comes more in the kind of crone phase. We can take all of that with us. And in fact, we can, I think, move between those aspects, hopefully, through healing, through listening to our inner wisdom, through carrying out our healing journey or continuing on our healing journey. We can move through those aspects of the mother maiden crone. Sorry, I've said that in entirely the wrong order, but you get the point. But also the inner child too, because even as adults, even quite old adults, if we're lucky enough to still be on this earth and have reached the age of 60, 70, 80, 90 and beyond, there will still be that inner child. We will take some of those memories with us, and maybe some of those, if not all of those, in some cases, those wounds, those painful experiences that we have had in our lives, because not everybody is able to carry out healing. Not everybody is aware enough, I guess, to heal themselves. And I don't say that in a way of judgment. It's just, unfortunately, depending on circumstances, sometimes it's just not, it's just not been possible to do that. And alongside the inner child, the maiden, the mother, the crone, as I say, I talked about being aware of our identity, and I also have talked about that kind of Pisces energy of being kind of magical, sort of spiritual, intuitive, and also that pull of the Apollonian and the Dionysian, or Apollo and Dionysus, where on one side we have structure, following the rules, doing kind of things like domestic tasks, for example, which is the Apollo side of things. And then in terms of Dionysus, it's more kind of about drinking wine and having fun and kind of going on adventures and that sort of thing, which I certainly experienced in my youth. But also that is more to do as well with that kind of Piscean vibe of, kind of ethereal, kind of, beautiful, mystical, magical things as well. So that struggle of finding balance between the two. So perhaps we can traverse all of those things. We can, we can pull in healing through, by healing our inner child. We can, have aspects of our youth coming forward. We can be the carer, the mother, or indeed the father for that matter. We can be wise, we can be this kind of more kind of crone aspect, but also we can tap into the Apollonian, the Dionysian. If I've said Dionysian, I think it's Dionysian, but anyway, Apollo and Dionysus are the two Greek gods that I'm referring to there. If you've not listened to, or rather watched, that video, it is here on my YouTube channel, or indeed you can do your own research. Literally just do a Google search for Apollo and Dionysus, it's probably easier to spell Apollo than Dionysus, and I know this because I've googled it myself before, and Apollo's really easy to spell, but Dionysus really isn't. So you might want to search for Apollo rather than Dionysus. But basically what I'm saying is, I think there is a way to kind of traverse all of these archetypes and kind of, if we want to, and of course we may identify with different aspects, different things may resonate more with the people that we are than others. This may well not resonate with everybody listening, but whatever those things are that we identify with, that resonate with ourselves as for the people that we are, whatever those things are, those kind of aspects that we think, this is something that is the person that I am, this is something that I resonate with, this makes sense to me. Perhaps we can tap into all of them simultaneously, or perhaps at different points in our life journey, and we don't need to be any one thing all of the time. We can traverse them all at different points. But I think most importantly, listen to the inner you, embody all the wonderful versions of yourself, the maiden, the mother, the crone, the Apollonian and the Diacean. Tap into all of those, and if they resonate with you, and allow that inner you, that deep, wonderful core of you, to shine your light onto the world. And I will endeavour to do likewise. So I really hope that this video has been helpful to you. I hope it's been interesting. I hope perhaps you've resonated with some of it, or maybe all of it. It's certainly been therapeutic for me to share my words here on YouTube, and that's really, I think, all I want to say on these subjects. And just a short side note before I close this video, you may have noticed probably about 5 minutes ago, coming towards the end of the recording, you may have noticed some football chanting in the background. I do apologise for that. Unfortunately, I can't find a way to separate that from my audio. That was my partner celebrating, I think, a football win. So I do apologise, but that is life, and that's being a YouTuber as a 49-year-old woman with a partner and a child, and that's life. And as I said at the beginning of the video, these things happen. We can't expect necessarily things to be completely perfect. So if you heard that, and if you've got a really good ear, you will also know which football team he supports. So there we go, and that's English football I'm talking about here. Okay, so there we go. So I will close for now, but I will of course share another video with you soon. Bye for now. Take care.